Grace Kelly was an actress from the 1950s who later became the Princess of Monaco. She did a number of movies, including To Catch a Thief and Rear Window. She won an Oscar for Best Actress for her role in The Country Girl in 1954. Grace Kelly was born on November 12, 1929 at Hahnemann University Hospital in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to an influential family. Her father was John B. Kelly Sr. He was born to Irish immigrants, and he won 3 Olympic gold medals for sculling. He was a nominee for mayor in 1935. Her mother was Margaret Major, who had German ancestry. She taught physical education at the University of Pennsylvania and was the first woman to coach women's athletics at Penn. After she got married to John Kelly, she focused on being a homemaker until all her children were of school age. She later became active in participating in various civic organizations. Grace had 2 older siblings, Margaret and John Jr., and a younger sister, Elizabeth. She grew up in a small, close-knit Catholic community. She was baptized and she received her elementary education in the parish of St. Bridget's in East Falls. Grace modeled fashions at local charity events with her mother and sisters. Grace played the lead in Don't Feed the Animals in 1942 at 12 years old. It was a play produced by the Old Academy Players in East Falls. In May 1947, she graduated from Stevens School, where she participated in dance and drama programs. Allegedly, she was rejected by Bennington College in 1947 due to her low mathematics scores. She pursued her dreams of becoming an actress. It is said her parents was not pleased with that decision, especially her father. I read that her father viewed acting as a slim cut above streetwalker at the time. Grace Kelly signed with Walter Thornton, a model agency, in 1947, appearing on the covers of magazines. To start her acting career, she auditioned for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. She used the scene from her Uncle George Kelly's The Torchbearers. Although the school had already met its semester quota, she had an interview with the admissions department and she was admitted into the school through her Uncle George's influence. She worked vigorously and she practiced her speech by using a tape recorder. She made her Broadway debut in Strindberg's The Father alongside Raymond Massey. Her graduation performance at 19 years old was as Tracy Lord in The Philadelphia Story. Her uncle continued to mentor her throughout her acting career. Her father insisted she lived at the Barbizon Hotel for Women in Manhattan. She was hired as a model by John Robert Powers Agency, where some of her first modeling jobs were doing commercials for bug spray and cigarettes. Allegedly, Grace liked dancing to Hawaiian music topless down the hallways of the Barbizon, which was shocking for other residents. She later wrote that she had wonderful memories of the 3 years she spent at the Barbizon. Television producer Delbert Mann cast Grace as the lead in an adaptation of the Sinclair Lewis novel, Bethel Merryday. This was her first of nearly 60 live television programs. She was mentioned in Theatre World magazine as most promising personality of the Broadway stage of 1950. As a theater actress, some of her well-known roles is The Father, The Rockingham Tea Set, The Apple Tree, and The Mirror of Delusion, and more. In her career, Grace appeared in 11 movies. Despite her short film career, she was widely remembered, and she was gorgeous. Remember, she got married to the prince. Before she got married to the Prince of Monaco, it is alleged that Grace had numerous affairs, which included affairs with Clark Gable, Bing Crosby, Gary Cooper, and Marlon Brando. In 1952, Grace was featured in the movie High Noon. She acted with Gary Cooper in that movie. It is alleged that they had a romantic relationship during filming. He was almost 30 years older than Grace. He was also married. Grace acted in the 1953 movie Mogambo alongside Clark Gable, directed by John Ford. The movie was shot in Africa. She allegedly had an affair with Clark Gable during filming. According to VintagePaparazzi.com, when Clark Gable was asked about Grace, he would deny it. When Grace Kelly was asked if she was in love with Clark Gable or he with her, she said, "I'm afraid not. That's just a rumor, and there's nothing to it. Mr. Gable is a very fine gentleman, and he's gone out of his way to help me in this picture." Allegedly, when Grace's mother found out about Grace and Clark Gable, she flew out to Africa to be a chaperone. By then, it is alleged that Clark had grown annoyed of Grace's clinginess. In 1954, Grace starred with Bing Crosby in The Country Girl. She allegedly started a relationship with Bing during filming. Grace and Bing were nominated for Academy Awards for the movie. Only Grace won an award for Best Actress. Marlon Brando won the Oscar instead of Bing for the movie On the Waterfront. Allegedly, Bing Crosby and Grace were supposed to spend the night together when he caught Grace in bed with Marlon Brando after her Oscar win that same night. Allegedly, Grace's reputation left many wives and girlfriends of her co-stars nervous and suspicious. Allegedly, not much came of Marlon Brando and Grace's relationship after that. Bing and Grace did go on to star in another movie years later. They appeared in the movie High Society in 1956. By that time, Grace was engaged to the Prince of Monaco. It is said that Grace was allowed to wear her engagement ring on the film since her character on the film was supposed to be engaged too. So it is doubtful that they rekindled their romance during that film. It is also alleged that at 23 years old, Grace had an affair with Ray Milland while filming Rear Window. He won an Oscar in 1945 for The Lost Weekend. He was also married at the time to Muriel Weber. According to James Spotter's HollywoodBlogspot.com, it was alleged that the relationship was very serious between Ray and Grace. Her sister Lisanne recalls, they began to see each other making little effort to conceal their romance. The article says that Ray Milland surprised Lisanne one day, confiding the depth of his feelings for Grace to her. "I flew back from Hollywood on the same plane with him," as she recalls, "and we had a long talk. He told me he really was very much in love with her." The article says that his wife soon heard talk about her husband and the beautiful newcomer Grace. She feared it was true, but there was no proof. According to the article, several weeks after her suspicions were first aroused, her fears were confirmed. Ray Milland and his wife separated, allegedly, and Grace and Ray discussed marriage. He got an apartment in Hollywood and Grace spent a great deal of time there. It wasn't confirmed if him and Grace were living together, but according to the article, someone from the studio went over to Ray's apartment and Grace answered the door. The article said that studio publicist Andy Hervey recalls that his wife had an ace up her sleeve. She told Ray to go ahead and get a divorce and marry Grace Kelly because all the property is in her name. Needless to say, it wasn't long before the marriage plans were off. Grace Kelly headed the U.S. delegation at the Cannes Film Festival in 1955. While she was there, she was invited to participate in a photo session with Prince Rainier III at the Prince's Palace of Monaco. After a series of delays and complications, she met him at the palace on May 6, 1955. After a year-long courtship, they got married on April 19, 1956. The Napoleonic Code of Monaco and the laws of the Catholic Church wanted two ceremonies, civil and religious. The 16 minutes civil ceremony took place in the palace throne room of the Monaco on April 18, 1956, and a reception later in the day was attended by 3,000 citizens. The wedding was estimated to have been watched by over 30 million viewers on television. Grace became the princess. During her marriage, Grace stopped acting. Instead, she did her daily duties as the princess and became involved in philanthropic work. Princess Grace was active in improving the arts of institutions of Monaco, forming the Princess Grace Foundation in 1964 to support local artisans. Grace had 3 children: the beautiful Princess Caroline in 1957, Princess Albert in 1958, and Princess Stephanie in 1965. On September 13th, 1982, Grace was driving back to Monaco from her country home. Allegedly, Grace suffered a mild cerebral hemorrhage while she was driving, and as a result, she lost control of her vehicle and drove off the steep, winding road and down the 120-foot mountainside. Her teenage daughter, Stephanie, was in the passenger seat. She tried but failed to regain control of the car. Princess Grace was taken to the Monaco Hospital, later named the Princess Grace Hospital Center. She had injuries to the brain and thorax and a fractured femur. She died the following night at 10:55 p.m. after Rainer decided to turn off her life support. Stephanie suffered a concussion and a hairline fracture of a cervical vertebrae and was unable to attend her mother's funeral. Princess Grace's funeral was held at the Cathedral of Our Lady Immaculate in Monacoville on September 18, 1982. She was buried in the Grimaldi family vault. Over 400 people attended, including Gary Grant, Nancy Reagan, Princess Diana of Wales, and Empress Farah of Iran. Princess Rainer was buried alongside her after his death in 2005. Prince Rainer, he was buried next to her. Grace Kelly was a beautiful woman. She only did 11 movies and made such a huge impact. It's easy to see how all these people could fall for her. Her memory will continue to live on. Rest in peace, Princess Grace.